The Nigerian Red Cross has called on citizens to support efforts at reaching over 25 million persons at risk in the country. The Red Cross, during a session in Abuja, called for support from the public, saying that citizens can support efforts at providing intervention to millions in dire need of humanitarian support. Nafisa Atiku-Adejuwon, author and program manager, Gender Justice, Yar'Adua Foundation, joins us to make better sense of this appeal. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
I mean, the Red Cross has done a lot when it comes to helping with hunger. They've now launched an emergency appeal to raise this huge amount, 23 billion naira. How impactful do you think this will be?
Okay, so first of all, that's a lot of money.
Indeed,
and then, it is a lot of money. And then drawing it into how it can be utilized effectively, we need to think about the 2.5 million, that one of the spokesperson just said, that 2.5 million people are in dire need of emergency assistance. So the first things first, you're going to be providing basic services, urgent humanitarian services to those 2.5 million people who do not have enough food to provide for their families and for themselves. And then you think of the second option, right? The second option is that these funds already could be put into building up the local capacity or our own internal capacity to shield ourselves against food security. In other sense, make ourselves more resilient. We could do more healthcare, nutrition, advocacy and awareness for women who have families or just women in total in the community. Because like it or not, a lot of people don't really understand the basics of what makes a good and nutritious meal. That's why we have a lot of children dealing with malnutrition. A lot of advocacy, awareness trainings and workshops can go into that. As well, you also need to think of, the fact of building our own local capacity. Okay, yeah, I've already said that. The fourth thing could be to provide adaptation finance. Adaptation finance will basically help us to create more sustainable measures of, farming, of, getting food. We can also think of the fact where we're introducing technology into the way we store the food that we produce or the food that we farm. These are different ways in which, the funds can be used. But I want us to think of something, right? When it comes to issues, societal issues that Nigeria faces, we seem to look at the superficial ways of, how do I put it, trying to deal with the problem. We offer palliatives, but we never really go down to the root issues, right, of food insecurity in our nation. And some of these funds can also be used to discover why exactly are we faced with this amount of food insecurity.
But that wouldn't be the responsibility of the Red Cross in this instance. So one would quickly jump on to asking, let me just quickly jump on to asking you that President Bola Tinubu, immediately after taking oath of office, had declared a state of emergency on food security. So I'm pushing it to the government now to tackle the increase in food prices, among other issues. So far, what would be your assessment of the steps taken by government to achieve this? Because you are saying we shouldn't be doing superficial solutions, but looking at the root causes.
So far, he made proclaimed the state of emergency on the food insecurity in the country in terms of affordability and accessibility. I don't want to say it's basically on paper, but we haven't seen the real-time effects of the state of emergency that he declared, right, trickle down to the populace or to the common man on the street. For instance, he said that they've used part of the savings from fuel subsidy to release fertilizers and seeds to the farmers, right, at the rural level. That's yet to be seen. We're yet to see the effects of that. They've also established a national commodity board, right, which is supposed to monitor and set a benchmark for the prices of food commodities across the nation. We're still yet to see the effects of that. He has now domiciled the food and water availability issues, affordability and availability issues under the National Security Council. That's an impressive move, if I must say, because to be honest, when you talk about food security, you're talking about the security of the whole nation. When there is no food, when there is hunger in the land, there is anarchy. Let's just put it like that. So that's an impressive move, but we really want to see how these declarations, plans really do translate to change for the common man on the street. So that's what I'm going to say in terms of government. I think they need to do more. I think they need to be more aggressive, and I think they need to move fast, because we're dealing with a level of almost 30% inflation for foodstuffs in this month.
Let's talk about an area that I know you have some real interest. I mean, women and children, many of them are always at the receiving end of this troubling development. As an advocate of gender justice and women empowerment, what efforts has your organization made to assist vulnerable women and children as quickly as you can? We're out of time.
Okay, so when you talk about food insecurity in Nigeria, you do have to acknowledge the place of conflict, right, and insecurity in terms of, the Boko Haram crisis. We've had the herdsmen crisis. So it literally affects our ability to produce foodstuff for the nation. So in terms of what the Yarada Foundation has done or is trying to do, we are focusing on including women, right, in the conversation for mediation and peacekeeping processes. We know that when peace and conflict happens, food insecurity happens. We know that when societal issues happen, women and children are usually the most vulnerable, right, because of their vulnerable places in the society as a result of social norms. Women are the ones who are tasked with the household and domestic chores, etc., cooking, fetching of water, every other thing, right? So they are in a better place, a more knowledgeable place to be able to contribute to discussions on peace and security, right? And peace and security does translate into a more stable food system regime, if you get what I'm saying.
All right.
They are always correlated, yeah.
Thank you very much, Nafisa, for speaking with us. We appreciate your time and your input.
Thank you.